Hello my brothers and sisters of the Order. Welcome back. I am Templar, and welcome back to another Horror History Month for this October, I guess you could call it that. So, yeah. What? Is there something wrong with my face? Anybody? Anybody tell me what's wrong? What? Skull? Where? I don't see it. What do you mean, check my face? What's wrong with my... Ah! Alright, enough jokes aside. Hey guys, Templar here. Welcome back to the Order. And today I am actually going to be talking to y'all about none other than the Leprechaun. Now, this is going to be part of the Horror History Month. Now, I hear many of you already, Templar, what the hell does a leprechaun have to do with horror history? Well, if you know the true stories and the origins of a leprechaun, you could pretty much understand it. Now, in truth, leprechauns are not exactly the type of creature as we think of this, looking like, well, a happy, go-getting guy colored in green and yada yada yada. Actually, the real story and origin of the leprechaun is actually based in a major area in folklore. In fact, it's actually stated that, well, leprechauns have actually been around since the beginning of time, and the term leprechaun is not exactly their original name. It's known as, I don't know if I'm mispronouncing this in any way, but it's known as Leprechaun, or Leprechaun, I believe, of which means little people. However, the term leprechaun or Leprechaunian would actually also mean another thing, such as the children of the green or fairy. And of which, that's what leprechauns are. Now, but before we start thinking that they're kind of a person that is part of a cereal box, or in the process actually collects gold and such, leprechauns actually have major things in there. And of which, it's actually stated that leprechauns are major tricksters, and as well, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? I guess the correct term would actually be near identical to a killer, if you could put it that way. Because in truth, leprechauns are not entirely the type of people that of which you do want to mess with. In fact, they have magical powers and such. Now, in truth, I am a big fan of the Leprechaun movies, because I kind of grew up with them when I was young, and I still technically love them still. But in truth, there is an old story about the leprechauns. It's actually stated that they live in the forests and areas, of which this is where they originate from. It's actually stated that many high kings that have actually tried to ask, or including actually people, have actually gone to, well, the leprechaun areas in order to actually ask them for aid, and as well, even ask them in order to help them out with said items and chores. Now, leprechauns actually have what you might call a weird, greedy, and odd habit. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, in truth, the leprechauns actually have what you might call a little bit of a strange side to them. Let's just leave it at that. Now, in truth, the leprechauns actually were said to have actually fixed some said items, such as, say, your shoes, your clothing, or as well, even giving you good luck, and as well, even helped you around the house. Thing is, though, you have to offer them something in the return. For example, if they were to, say, fix your shoes, which is actually said, they actually managed to fix shoes incredibly quickly in under a second, like that. So in doing so, you actually had to pay them a gold coin, or as well, drink, food, or as well, clothing, and as well, tobacco. Now, this is actually a major thing that which leprechauns are actually known for. So, why is it that we think that leprechauns only are given gold and keep it? Well, that actually was a myth that was actually conducted sometime during the migration period into the United States. Why I am still left unknown, but yeah. Now, before y'all start thinking that leprechauns actually hoard their gold in a magic pot and all that, and it leads to a rainbow and all that and such, well, leprechauns did actually state to have that myth about them. But the thing is, it wouldn't lead to their pot of gold. It would lead directly to them. And as which, there's actually an ancient story that in which, if you capture a leprechaun, then you can be given 3 wishes. As I said, there was a king in Ireland once that was being drowned by 3 leprechauns. However, he had actually managed to capture all of them, and as well was granted 3 wishes from each. Or some say that it was 3 wishes in general, but I don't know if that's true or not, because there are different versions of it. In fact, it just sounds like something out of Aladdin. Now, though, this is something, though, I have to explain. In truth, it's actually stated that leprechauns are extremely powerful, and of which are actually near identical to godlike powers. In fact, it's actually stated that they were actually the children of the green for a reason, because of the god Lu. And of which it's actually stated that Lu actually given them powers beyond something of a normal creature. Now, this is actually what I have to explain to y'all. If you actually do capture a leprechaun, there are 2 things that could probably happen to you. Either death or bad luck. Now, in truth, you could probably get the 3 wishes, but many historians actually state that this might have actually been a myth in order to get idiots to actually capture it, which was said to have been idiotic in general. Now, in doing so, there actually has been a very big story of said leprechauns actually being captured in the wilds. Now, though, that's the major problem. Now, what do I mean by that? Kind of obvious. One, you don't want to ever capture a leprechaun because they can be extremely dangerous, as I state. But the thing is, there is a major reason also. It's actually stated that there is an ancient tale of leprechauns actually hoarding gold underneath the mounds of the earth in Ireland. Now, we don't know if that's true or not, but I can probably guarantee that you do not want to probably do that. Now, though, this is one part that which we have to understand. Now, if you do manage to find leprechauns' gold in the process, there is technically a way you could probably get away with it. To lure away the leprechaun, you can either flash them a piece of gold and so that way they can go and chase it, or as well, you could probably throw your shoes, or your filthy shoes, which literally, these shoes have to be extremely dirty to actually keep these guys occupied for a long amount of time. Otherwise, what could happen is they could probably come up and chase and bite you in the ass, or worse. Now, that brings me to my point. In truth, the leprechaun, as you can understand, in truth, they wouldn't just chase you because of their gold, they would also chase you because you stole something from them, such as, say, items, or including also the fact you might have destroyed their home, and or killed their family by accident, or something else. Now, in doing so, this actually also brings me to another type of piece, the horseshoe, or including an iron horseshoe. Now, in truth, it actually stated that one way you can actually trap a leprechaun is by using iron. And now, many of you might wonder why iron? Well, it's actually stated that an iron skillet or an iron piece of equipment, such as a cauldron or something like that, if you were to drop it on them, they can't get out of it. In fact, there are many folklores and with fairies that actually state that fairies actually can't leave an iron cauldron. In fact, there is actually states that of which if a baby has actually been abducted by a fairy mother, what would happen is the fairy would end up returning to the babies if they were threatened and of which were about to be placed in a cauldron. So, yeah, you can see why many times over they can't escape from that. Now, though, that actually brings me to another thing, actually also a 4-leaf clover. Now, why a 4-leaf clover? Well, it's actually stated that St. Patrick was actually kind of being attacked, or I wouldn't want to say attacked, more of like actually pestered by a couple of leprechauns. So what he did is he used a horseshoe that was iron and as well including the cross on a 4-leaf clover. He placed the cross on him and as well in doing so he actually managed to keep them away from his area. In fact, it's actually stated that areas such as the church were actually an area of safe haven against a leprechaun, even the ruins of churches, that of which could keep them away. Now, there's also an ancient Irish folklore of which if you were to enrage a leprechaun so much, they would transform from their lovable little human side into a creature of the green itself, and of which would devour a very human soul. Now, there is actually a movie actually based on near identical to this, so it's kind of a good thing that they put that in there. But that brings me to another form. Now, it's actually stated, though, that the Leprechauns actually had arrangements and deals with humans. In fact, there's actually an old story that Leprechauns had actually done something weird to a human family, such as with this one tale of a farmer who is wanting to remove a tree in order to farm the land. Problem is, the tree was owned by the Leprechauns, and in doing so, he had to ask permissions from the Leprechauns first. This was from the folklore. In fact, it's actually stated that many of the farmers warned him not to enrage the leprechaun. Problem is, this guy, not from the area in which he had actually gone against it. Now, this type of form in folklore happened during the late medieval periods and such, when such as English were actually starting to, or Saxons I should say, were starting to make their way into Ireland. Now, in doing so, he stated to have, tilled the soil and destroyed the tree without the permission of the leprechaun, and as which he and his family all died the very night. However, he himself was still alive just barely, and of which he stated the following, that of which a creature of green and wood, and of which attacked him and his family, killing his wife, abducting his children, and devouring them in the night, as he could hear their screams. Yikes. Okay, that's kind of why I don't want to piss off a leprechaun in general, because in truth they are little bastards, in which you do not want to mess with them. Now, as which, it actually has been stories, stories and cameras or videos on the leprechauns being caught on camera, though most of the time I believe these are probably faked. So, yeah. But in truth, if you actually don't realize, though, there are areas in Ireland that of which leprechauns are said to be noticed. So the thing is, you just gotta try and find them. Now, though, that brings me to my next thing. In truth, leprechauns probably do exist out there. Problem is, they're such mischievous little bastards, in which I probably wouldn't think it's a good idea to actually bring, say, electrical equipment with you, because otherwise it won't work anymore. In fact, it's actually stated that leprechauns despise electrical equipment and destroy it. Yeah, that's something you probably don't want. Now, though, the other form in which we actually understand the leprechaun in general is that the fact that they actually make deals. In fact, as I stated before, that if you make a deal with a leprechaun, such as, say, clean the house or something like that, you gotta give them a coin each day. Such as, say, if I want my house to be cleaned every day for the rest of my life, I gotta give them a coin or something each day for the rest of my life. Otherwise, they could do the opposite. They could probably destroy the house in general. Such as what happened with a man known as Menaclee, or Malaclay, as some people in Ireland pronounce it, I think. It's actually stated that he had actually gone back on his word, and as well, he later found out his house was trashed and as well was almost gone. In fact, he only had half a home after the leprechauns destroyed it, because he had asked them to both expand it and in truth also clean it for the rest of his life. Problem is, it didn't work out so well for the rest of his life. In fact, he had actually lost half his home, and as well, also, most of the rest of it was filthy and such, I guess is the correct term. I could probably put in there, but I don't know how I should probably put that in there. But yeah. But the horrifying part is, if you mess with a leprechaun, they can transform not from stay in the form of a lovable creature, but turn into a creature of darkness and destruction. Now, I wanted to either put this on the month of March or October, because the truth, the dark truth about leprechauns is that the fact that they are incredibly dangerous little people. In fact, you don't want to mess with them. Now, as I said, you can easily just go to Ireland and visit them, but I really would advise against it due to the fact leprechauns are extremely mean. Now, in truth though, leprechauns are what you might call a very good type of keeper, or friend, I guess you could keep, as long as you keep your end of the bargain with them. Now, It's actually stated, though, that the Leprechaun does have a major weakness for cleaning and fixing things. So, yeah, you could probably trick him, but I really wouldn't advise for that. Because in truth, it was even stated that when a family member, such as Laura Neckea, who of which was said to have been a young girl who had accidentally forgotten to feed the leprechauns to tend their family farm. And in doing so, it was actually stated that she was supposed to feed them a crop of potatoes or cabbages or something like that. And in doing so, all that was left was actually said that she had actually forgotten to cook and clean the potatoes and such. And in doing so, what happened then is that she was abducted. Yikes. Don't want that to happen. Now, in truth though, leprechauns are incredibly, well, famous in folklore, mainly because of the 1900s, such as, for example, the early 1900s, for example, of when there was a big migration here into the United States. And in truth, that's actually how we get mostly the idealism of the leprechaun in, because, well, it became famous because of the Irish who actually came over here because of, well, the racism was going on here in the United States. And in doing so, many Irishmen were viewed as lazy and such, but in truth they pretty much weren't. Actually, they did their job, and, well, most of the jobs were being taken away by Irishmen. However, because of the leprechaun, this was actually stated to have actually been the thing that gave him good luck. In which, it's actually stated that a man from Ireland had actually kept a leprechaun for a keepsake in his said pocket, in a small cage. However, we don't know if that's true or not, because I'm not going to try and find that one out, because that's a little weird. But yeah, anyways, guys, let me inform y'all, don't try capturing a leprechaun, don't try doing anything stupid with a leprechaun, and also don't steal its gold, money, or anything. Otherwise, it probably might turn into this damn ugly bastard and probably chase after you. But anyways, guys, hopefully you find this helpful on the stories of the leprechaun and their horror parts. Anyways, guys, this has been Templar. Have a great day, and happy Halloween.